Welcome back to the Football Kingdom podcast, Conference Championship edition. With me, as always, Tyler Mallon. I'm Brandon Johnson. And we'll just cut to the chase. Chiefs win on the road in Baltimore, beat the Ravens to advance to their fourth Super Bowl in the last 5 years and their second straight Super Bowl. And they will be facing the 49ers, who had a huge comeback victory over the Detroit Lions at home. So this is a rematch of a Super Bowl we've seen recently. We got a lot to get into. Starting with the Chiefs, as always. We had a defensive masterclass, Tyler.
Yeah, this game, before it even started, they were throwing hands during the warm-ups. I mean, that guy could have been ejected. I mean, he literally punched a dude in the helmet. You know, I would not have been shocked if he would have been ejected before the game started. Quite honestly, it's kind of shocking he wasn't.
Yeah, they were getting chippy before. You had Justin Tucker, who was down on the Chiefs' goal line, kind of instigating some stuff with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and MVS. And Justin Tucker, acted like, oh, I do this all the time. It's never been an issue. And then earlier today, Patrick Mahomes gets on 610 and is like, listen, I've been doing this 7 years and I've had an issue 3 different times and all of them were in Baltimore. So
always him.
This is a Justin Tucker thing that he does. And if he knows anything about the Chiefs, which he should at this point, it's don't poke the bear. Don't give them any sort of bulletin board material. Don't give them a reason to don't give them motivation is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
And whether or not that fueled the Chiefs to go and take care of the Ravens, I think you and I felt pretty confident that the Chiefs were going to do that regardless. But I mean, this was Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. I mean, my goodness, just putting on a clinic.
Yeah, what do you go? 11 for 11, 110 yards. Should probably have that pulled up, but
116 yards and 1 touchdown and 1 circus catch.
Oh, dude, that was amazing. That was like they showed it on the broadcast, but it like Mahomes ran around for like 10 seconds, and he makes that literally a diving grab for it was maybe 7 yards, but it was for the first down. Is that the one you're talking about?
That's the one.
So
the
good.
Diving grab. Yep. Yeah.
That was early on too, and that really set the tone.
Well,
it's like we will not be denied.
That was kind of the thing in the first half. I think the Chiefs scored they scored quick. And it I think threw off the Baltimore Ravens' entire game plan because they were the number one running team, the number one rushing team going into this game or all season long. And I mean, they pretty much abandoned that entirely. And I think it's because they were not expecting the Chiefs offense to do what it did in the first half.
So, yeah, as soon as that game was over, I went to ESPN, looked at stats, and was like shocked. I was like, they had a total of 81 rush yards. And because I'm like, well, what? Because everyone immediately was talking about what happened to their rushing game. This is the best rushing team in the NFL. Like, what is going on? And there was 6 total rushes that weren't Lamar Jackson. 6 rush plays by their running backs. Like, what on earth? I can't. It's hard to comprehend like what exactly happened. You lose your entire identity because you're playing against Mahomes and the Chiefs because it's the championship game, but you're at home and you do this, like to have this performance, you totally get away with everything that got you there. And against one of the best, pass defenses in the league, if not the best, all the cornerbacks.
Yeah, it was really, really bizarre what the Ravens did because even the one touchdown they scored was, okay, Leo Chenal missed a
Yes.
sack, and then we had Nick Bolton in coverage on Zay Flowers. So they had kind of Lamar Jackson kind of threw up a prayer, and it worked out for them. But he looked, honestly, really bad. And I think what I was noticing was, like, the more like things didn't work for the Ravens offense, the more you kind of saw them get flustered. And it was the first time all season that they had to see adversity, and they very clearly just crumbled and couldn't handle it. I was like, this is a team, like they're defeated. It was crazy. I was like, this is the MVP, Lamar Jackson. This is the MVP of the league that just looks lost.
It's truly inexplicable. Like, after that game happens, you're like, okay, best rushing team, one of the better defenses. The Chiefs run defense has not been that great. The Bills showed like you can be successful doing that. Their pass defense is one of the best. You've got Lamar as your MVP. You're at home. You score, 10 total points. I mean, it's that whole game. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's so hard to understand what they were thinking. Like, what's your game plan? Because they were only ever down by 10 points at any given moment in the game. So why get away from the run?
It made no sense. But what's crazy about it is there was never a point in the game, even though the Chiefs, the Ravens defense in the second half completely adjusted.
Oh my God, yeah.
But I never felt like the Chiefs were ever in danger of losing the game.
Right.
On top of that, the Ravens adjusted in the second half, but I also it felt like the Chiefs' game plan in the second half was just run some clock. It never felt like they had any intention of even driving down the field. I know that obviously that is the goal, but the plays that were being called, it just kind of felt like it was like, we feel good. Let's just kill the clock, get it to zeros, and go to the Super Bowl.
That's a really good point, and I was extremely frustrated watching that. And I'm like, put this team away, please. Do something here. And they just kept handing the ball off, just to right at the gut. Run plays, and like Pacheco, he's he might break one off, and not that the game was sealed at that point, but to your point, I was like, what are we doing? But I don't know. I mean, I guess they were just that confident in the defense. They're like, we've got this, guys. Like, you do your thing. If you can score, you can. But I honestly think this goes back to, Mahomes knowing what they're capable of. If they have to, they can bust out plays if they need to. And what I think happened, what was really going on, they're burning clock, but they're taking what is given to them, and they're not going to turn the ball over, because that really was the difference. They had 2 turnovers. He had the strip sack and the Zay Flowers goal line. One of the greatest plays I've ever seen. This, honestly, should have started with this. This truly is one of the greatest football games I've ever seen. And I hesitated to say that, but it really was, because it wasn't flashy. There was a lot of really cool stuff, especially as a Chiefs fan, but I've been thinking about that ever since the game was over. Like, it truly is just a masterclass of defense and a game plan, completely shut down another team at home.
When you think about, when you say what's a team win in the NFL,
right?
You look at this game.
It's a whole game plan of a team win. Like, we all were on the same page on both sides.
Yeah,
special teams were excellent too. So
yeah, I thought I agree. I thought Tommy Townsend had a couple really bad punts, but he had that one that pinned the Ravens on their one. That was great.
Remember that?
But I think something that was fun to kind of go back to the whole Justin Tucker thing and the teams getting chippy with each other before the game. The Chiefs were absolutely just they were in the Ravens' heads. Like, Travis Kelce baited a 15-yard penalty. You had the I can't remember who clotheslined Patrick Mahomes. I know it wasn't intentional, but just straight up clothesline. Jadeveon Clowney kind of going up under the chin of Patrick Mahomes. And then was it Roquan Smith that had the unnecessary roughness where he just took out Trey Smith? Chiefs probably should have declined that penalty, by the way, but because it made it 1st and 10 instead of 1st and 5.
Oh,
and the whole thing was he did that on purpose to reset the downs and reset the distance.
Though, too.
Yeah, but it was like, I think the idea was reset the chains and get 5 yards, but he just kind of
if he would have just reached his hand over and touched,
just like
he said he trucks the guy. It's like,
okay,
the rest know what you're doing, bro.
15-yard penalty.
Wow, you're so right. That actually absolutely was the story of the game, because before the game, and I called this like 20 times, all over Twitter, there was all this pregame stuff. The Justin Tucker thing, I was like, that's going to come back to bite you, bud. And then the whole game, the Ravens were just so inside their own heads. It's kind of the Cowboys thing, but in a different way. You know what I mean? Like they just knew they were going to lose, and they manifested it to happen. The Ravens were so overhyped. They were too hyped up, and they really committed like rookie-like mistakes. You get your team that riled up, and they're going to get a little too violent. Which I'm all for violence in the NFL. I don't want guys getting career-ending injuries, but
physicality.
Well, they took it too far. Roquan Smith had right before the game started, they showed this. Maybe it was like 15 minutes, but they showed him like, doing his pregame speech to the entire team, and I was scared of that man. I was like, holy crap! Like I do not. This is bad for the Chiefs. Like I was actually a little scared. I was like, holy crap! And the whole crowd was seeing it. Like they played it on the jumbotron there. And I'm like, oh man, like they are out for blood. This is going to be a tough game. Well, but with all that other cheapy stuff, I'm like, they're going to take this too far. This is going to come back to bite them, and it absolutely did. There was 4 or 5.
Sure, yeah. The Ravens put on a good show. They put on a good show. We'll bring out Ray Lewis. We'll bring out Terrell Suggs. We'll bring out Ed Reed. The Terrell Suggs thing was super weird. I'm like, can they do that just in the middle of the game like that?
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that guy, but I was like, okay. I didn't. Nobody really questioned it when it happened, but I'm like, can you just do that? You just turn all the lights out?
Yeah, and it was like 3 minutes left in the third quarter. It wasn't like it was halftime or in between quarters. It was like a TV timeout or something. Yeah. And it was so weird. Because somebody reported, I think Judy Batista reported on Twitter, like, oh, the lights just went out. Oh, just kidding, they're back on.
You expect
Terrell Suggs came out. I was like, what is this? The Super Bowl in New Orleans?
Yeah, you expect Jim Nantz to come back with like his master's voice, like, well, the lights are out now.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on.
But I think what happened here with the Ravens, and I'm not the only one to make this point, is Patrick Mahomes was on the other sideline, and that's just a different beast. Because the whole thing this season was, and listen, if you doubted the Chiefs at any point this season, don't feel bad about it.
No.
There were multiple points this season where you had every reason to be like, I don't know about this team. But the whole thing this season was, or this postseason was, Patrick Mahomes going to have to go on the road. And turns out it doesn't matter where he plays because he's just a winner.
Might be even better.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about Travis Kelce. Because he just did something pretty major in this last game. I think we all know who Jerry Rice is, the greatest wide receiver ever, but Travis Kelce broke the playoff reception record.
Total? Like total receptions?
Yes.
Yeah.
if you are in a category where it's you and Jerry Rice,
Right.
you're doing something right. So
Yeah,
that was pretty
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, it's weird. You look at his stat line: 11 for 11, 116, 1 touchdown. He had 1 rush for 5 yards. It was actually a little pass, but I think it was like a backwards pass. So he could have went for 12 for 12. You know, technically, but this is when they needed him the most. And this is really, it's a story of like the Chiefs all season until the playoffs came. Because like you said, don't feel bad if you kind of doubted, like, I mean, you and I were saying, like, do they even belong in the playoffs? Because they were terrible at the end of the season. And then they just turned it on. They entered the playoffs and they're unstoppable, you know? And it does go back to whenever you say, like, oh, well, this team, they are the defending champs. It's not like this is 2017, like, oh, the Chiefs have been there. It's like, a lot of these guys have been here. They've been here 6 times in a row. First of all, in the championship game, been to the Super Bowl 3 times, and I don't know. I mean, it's a different championship mentality where they're just super calm. They don't have these ridiculous personal foul penalties. They're actually egging people on to get them, as Travis Kelce was, against Van Noy. And I mean, yeah, they're just a completely different team, and you have to beat them to get to the Super Bowl, apparently, at this point.
So I want to jump ahead because Zay Flowers kind of had a life comes at you fast moment towards the end of this game.
Well said.
So obviously the Ravens are in desperation mode. They got to score. And Zay Flowers caught a deep ball at the Chiefs 10. And instead of just getting up and calling it good, he hit the old trifecta of what refs look for in a taunting. Spun the ball, hit the Chiefs defender, stood over him, taunted him, and pushed him, all in one sitting. And instead of being at the Chiefs 10 or 11 yard line, it was now they're at the 25, which is like, okay, rookie mistake. Fast forward though, Zay Flowers with the ball again. The player he was standing over, by the way, was L'Jarius Sneed. I should have mentioned that.
Yes.
So Zay Flowers, he's about to score a touchdown, reaches out, and just before the ball crosses the plane, L'Jarius Sneed swoops in, punches it out. Chiefs recover in the end zone, touchback, Chiefs ball. And so you go from a taunting penalty to a fumble in a critical situation to getting in a fight with your helmet on the bench, cutting your hand, and then being consoled by Odell Beckham Jr. all in a matter of like 10 minutes.
Yeah, or less, probably.
So good life lesson for Zay Flowers, a little bit of humbling moment for him. But L'Jarius Sneed makes the play of the game there. L'Jarius Sneed was not an all-pro, by the way. Still trying to figure that one out.
Yikes. He'll be in the Super Bowl. He ain't going to be there anyway.
Yeah. Well, all-pro and Pro Bowl, 2 different things.
Sure.
But yeah, play the game, and that's when you knew, okay, this game's over. But let's also skip ahead a little bit. MVS, MVS has been in the doghouse most of the season. He was let out a little bit last week. But Chiefs just got to get a first down to win this game, and they just went up top and hit MVS, and MVS made a great catch to seal the Chiefs' path to the Super Bowl. So MVS 1 gets his nickname back, and 2 is welcomed back to the sideline.
Second week in a row that he's all is forgiven. Which again is like the whole team is like, you show up in the playoffs and that's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
He had 2 catches, which were both huge, either keep the drive alive or seal the game. Because Mahomes just put a little touch on that ball. I mean, you watch it back and it's like, like he barely kind of threw it up, but it was perfect for only him to catch, and he had to make the exact play that he made, falling on his back and make that catch and seal the game.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, as we said, the 4th Super Bowl in 5 years, and I mean, we don't need to play a bunch of what ifs, but like, there's so many cases where you can just go, man. There's an alternate timeline where the Chiefs have gone to 6 straight Super Bowls. Like,
Yes.
D4 doesn't go off sides in 2018. In 21 against the Bengals, I mean, that was just an all-time kind of second half collapse by the Chiefs. But you've already got 2. You've been to 3, and you have an opportunity to win your 3rd. And if you're Patrick Mahomes, you're still under 30.
Yeah, 28.
So, but yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm surprised that the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. I will say, like, didn't fully see it coming. Like, so maybe I am surprised, but it's a weird thing.
Well,
I think after that Dolphins game, whenever we saw like, oh wow, I think the offense is fixed. Like, that was just like, boom, we're good. Kind of treated the Chiefs week to week this year. But I'll tell you this, regardless of the outcome of the Super Bowl, I don't care what the Chiefs do next season. I'm just going to be like, yeah, they're going to the Super Bowl. So
you're right. You can't even. Yeah, people will still do it to get clicks, but I mean, geez. The opening spread or whatever was minus 2.5 or whatever for the Niners. It's like, you kidding me? After what they just did. And I think this was I was going to say a second ago, when you're like, nobody really expected the Chiefs to do this necessarily in the way that they did. The thing is, we expect them to do this, but just not in this way. The teams that they beat to get here is that's what's crazy. These are the best teams in the league, on both conferences. And here they are. That's the surprising part, is like, these teams were supposed to be better, but I really do. I think it's the Mahomes factor, Andy Reid. They've been here so many times, and this is, I don't want to say that, but that's kind of the norm at this point. I mean, how can you not say that? After what we just saw, they're already in the Super Bowl again with the best, obviously, defense that Mahomes has ever had, but probably the worst offense, that he's been involved with, and they're still here.
Yeah. Yeah. So my advice next season is, anybody that tries to compare anybody to Patrick Mahomes, like if somebody's like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow,
Right.
Lamar Jackson, if they try to even put them in that vein, or they say, I'd rather have Josh Allen, whoever, like, block them. Just block them. Yeah, if you're not Tom Brady or Joe Montana, you don't belong in the same conversation as Patrick Mahomes. But jumping ahead, obviously the NFC Championship happened as well. And if you turned it off before halftime, you probably woke up thinking that the Detroit Lions were going to the Super Bowl.
I almost did. Not really, but it was halftime, and I started making dinner. And I was like, okay, well, this is, we'll keep a side eye on this and just watch it out of the corner of my eye or something. But boy, was I wrong! And huge comeback.
Yeah, the Lions were up 24-7 at halftime and lost 34-31. So
crazy game.
San Francisco adjusted. The Detroit Lions also made a few iffy decisions on fourth down. and San Francisco created some turnovers. And then Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, and co just did kind of what they do. This is the second week in a row where they've had to come back.
Mm-hmm.
So, and opposite of the Chiefs, I'm not a betting person, but we have been saying pretty much all season long, like 49ers are going to the Super Bowl for the NFC. It's happening. It's just, they're too good. I think a lot of the reason they didn't last year is because Brock Purdy got hurt and they played the NFC Championship game without a quarterback. Literally.
Yeah.
So, when you look at the 49ers run, it's very similar to the Chiefs. Obviously without the trophies, but
right.
This is their second Super Bowl in 5 years. This is, what have they been to? 4 or 5 NFC Championship games. So just, again, a very, very well-run organization. But it's going to be a very, very fun matchup. We'll get into that next week, but I do want to say a couple things, like the Ravens specifically. We talked about it. How successful will the Ravens be this year? And it was, they can be very good if Lamar Jackson stays healthy. And Lamar Jackson stayed healthy, and they ended up being the 1 seed and the best team in the league in the AFC. So, really great season. Unfortunately, ran into Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, which, you're not alone. The only people that have beat Mahomes are Tom Brady twice and then Joe Burrow. So, you're on a long list of people that have lost to the Chiefs.
Right.
But a great season that obviously, the ultimate goal is to win the Super Bowl, but I think the Ravens have a lot to, be proud of and a lot to look forward to. And then the Lions, do you have anything to say on the Ravens?
No, we're good.
Okay. And then the Lions, this is a team that, they were kind of America's team this year.
Oh, yeah.
They were last season, had a really great second half, and the thought was, wow, this team's going to be really good in 2023, 2024. And they lived up to it. Their first big test was to open the season against the defending Super Bowl champs, and they came away victorious there. And then just continued to be good and be better, and won the NFC North, and then hosted a playoff game for the first time in 30 years, won a playoff game, won two playoff games, and was in an NFC Championship game. So, again, kind of same thing. I think the Detroit Lions have completely flipped what their organization has been on its head, because they've been kind of they haven't been quite the Cleveland Browns, who also had a great season, but just kind of a laughing stock, just a poorly run organization, terrible ownership. And I think that they are just obviously on the right path with Dan Campbell and having Jared Goff. Jared Goff, just so fun to watch. And then Aiden Hutchinson, and then Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs. Just got a good team. And again, they're going to be good for a while.
Yeah, and they, you can't really, because of course everyone's doing this now, but you can't second guess the fourth down, going for it, because there was a couple chances of field goals. I don't think they were really chip shots, but it's also, there was like some 4th and 3s and stuff, but I mean, this was like the momentum, changing. You're in San Francisco and they're like, they will not be denied. And they've done it again. They did it against the Packers. And that's I think a lot tougher to do because so many times, especially against these Chiefs teams, like they're like, oh, so many of these teams are not built to play from behind. And that's what gets teams in trouble. You get that game plan flipped on its head. So the Niners, though, they just held the ball. I mean, you had 17 points in the third quarter alone. That came in fast, on the Lions, and then the Lions just way too many mistakes. They had so many. They had the fumble with a weird kind of handoff. Nobody really knew what the play was. Then interceptions, and then Goff and his receivers couldn't really match up. But it's like with Dan Campbell, that's what got you there. I don't really look back on that game and blame him. There was way too many mistakes and turnovers and just missed chances because the chances that they had to convert some of those 4th downs, like Goff just really didn't step up. He kind of, missed time and missed through somebody. But yeah, to go back to what you're saying is I was more worried before the Chiefs-Ravens game started. I was more concerned about playing the Lions than the Niners because everyone in America would be against the Chiefs, which they basically already are. But it would even be more so because the Lions story is just so much fun to root for. And I would have, in a way, root for them too. It's like, such an awesome story. And going 0-16, however many years ago, that's tough. Like that is your absolute lowest point. And they were 1-15 or whatever a couple of times. I mean, it's amazing what they've came back to or back from. And yeah. And then Campbell was telling his team, like, this is going to be really hard to come back to. I don't really agree with, he said something like, everybody's going to want your number. And I'm like, well, you're not the Chiefs. Like you're not the defending champs. Just because you made it and lost in the championship game, I'm like, I think it was giving me a little too hard on himself. It's kind of a weird message to send, but I think overall, yeah, it is extremely hard. Like he was obviously very upset about that, but yeah, tough to get back there. But I think they have the right formula. All those players that you mentioned and Campbell, they're going to be a problem for a long time, especially in that division. So,
yeah, yeah, well said. We're again Chiefs and 49ers again in the Super Bowl, and it's been floating around, but Chiefs are playing a playoff game at the Raiders Stadium before the Raiders have played a playoff game there. So hilarious. But lots to look forward to. We're going to get way into it next week. I got the Pro Bowl games coming up this weekend. If you're interested in that, with the skills competition and then the flag football game. But if Tyler, you don't have anything else, wrap this up. All right. Yeah. Thank you for listening all season long. I mean, we're almost done.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next
week. And the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
We'll see you next week to preview the 49ers and Chiefs.
Yeah, and look for we got the email, we got footballkingdompod@gmail.com. Twitter is podkingdom, and we got a YouTube coming. Look out for that. I'll put it in the show notes, but it is also at Football Kingdom Pod on YouTube. We're going to upload all of our stuff there. Probably start making video content shortly after the Super Bowl or something. We got to learn all of that stuff, but pretty exciting stuff coming. And see you next week.